Welcome into Texans today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs. We got a joint practice coming tomorrow up against the Carolina Panthers today. Just had a walkthrough inside NRG Stadium. But if you're pumped for this Saturday, 12 p.m. Central Time, well, good news. I'm going live here on the channel once again, and I want to do an even better giveaway for this second preseason game. So I have a deal for all you Texans fans out there. 50 subscribers on today's show, and we will do a jersey raffle this Saturday. Make it happen. If you're brand new to the channel, go down and hit that subscribe button for free Texans content all year long. We're going to have a free Texans watch party on Saturday, and hey, you might be able to win a brand new Texans jersey. All you got to do, go down, hit that subscribe button. On today's program, I'm going to be breaking down the top 5 position battles you need to watch this Saturday up against the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, the first preseason game, none of the starters, I'm not going to say none, most of the starters didn't play. We might see some more of the starters getting some reps up against the Panthers on Saturday, but which guys do you need to keep a closer eye out on, and which guys are going to be fighting for that roster spot? First, maybe the most obvious one, wide receiver, I don't know, 6'7", one of those guys. Who is going to be the final wide receivers to make this Texans roster? Because this is going to be a tight race on the back end of this Texans squad in terms of the wide receiver room. We know Nico Collins, Jaden Higgins, Christian Kirk, those are your top 3 guys, along with rookie Jaylin, who actually had a really good game up against the Minnesota Vikings. Those 4 guys are locks. But past that, you're looking at Xavier, Hutchinson, Braxton, Berrios, Watson, Metchie, which we'll break all those guys down right here and now. First up, Braxton Berrios, who last year, no receptions, no yards, nothing in the receiving game, but he is somebody who his value comes in special teams. Punt return, kick return, and along with Jaylin, maybe the other best wide receiver in preseason week 1 for the Texans up against the Vikings was Braxton Berrios. He had a really good connection with Slovis whenever the 2s, 3s were running with the Texans up against the Vikings. Look out for Braxton Berrios this Saturday. Another guy, Xavier Hutchinson, who, it's funny because whenever you're watching these games, a big indicator on whether or not your job is safe or whether you're safe is whether or not you're playing in the second half. Xavier Hutchinson didn't get a ton of second half reps up against the Vikings. Does that mean his roster spot is safe? Not sure, but he's another guy who adds special teams value, not as a return man, but can help in kickoff, kick return, punt return, and punt as being somebody who can either block or somebody who can run down the field. Another guy who, I don't know how the Texans view Justin Watson at this moment. He's a guy who Texans brought in during free agency. DeMeco Ryans really, sang his praises during the minicamp OTAs portion of the offseason. I remember whenever it was Texans Fan Fest, everybody was there able to ask DeMeco Ryans, Nick Caserio questions. The question was asked, who's, shocked you the most? Who's impressed you the most? He named Justin Watson. Now, Watson didn't get a lot of run during Minnesota, but he was in the third, a little bit in the fourth quarter. So I wonder how this team views Watson in terms of the depth at the wide receiver spot. And lastly, John Metchie. He had a great game up against the Vikings. He looked good. He played a lot as well, though. He played a lot of snaps, and he has been impressing a lot this offseason, and it's the roller coaster that is John Metchie III. This past week, during practice, you know who he was going up against and looked really good? The Texans cornerback one, Derek Stingley. There's a bunch of videos out there. Jonathan M. Alexander of the Houston Chronicle put out one-on-one red zone drills underway. John Metchie has got Derek Stingley twice. And if you watch the videos, really good route running by Metchie. And I know it's just a drill one-on-ones, but it gives you a little hope, right? It gives you a little hope. Maybe Metchie makes the roster. You tell me, though. Is this the year Metchie finally breaks out? Type F for finally. Type D if you think I'm delusional. I think the Texans are going to play him a lot. I think we'll see a lot of Metchie because either he's going to make this squad or I think he could be a guy that a team trades maybe a 7th-round pick for before the Texans release their final 53-man roster? Let me know, though, down in the comment section. Is this the year Metchie breaks out? F for finally. D, if you think I'm delusional. If you get hit with the YouTube ad break, all good. Scroll on down and give me your answer. All right, let's look at the next position group. The backup offensive tackle is the next group that I'm going to be watching closely up against the Carolina Panthers. And up against the Vikings, the backups, it wasn't very pretty. It wasn't very pretty. You look at, Blake Fisher, Zach Thomas, Austin Deculus. I don't have him on here because he just signed, but also Connor McDermott, a bunch of guys that I'll be watching this next game, and most namely, Blake Fisher. And I promise you, I don't want to continue to dog on Blake Fisher. I don't want to be the guy seems like I'm, continuously trying to trash on him. I'm not, but he didn't look good up against the Vikings. And as a former 2nd-round pick, he's somebody who this team expected to be a contributor this year. And it doesn't look like that's going to be the case for one Blake Fisher. The other backup options for this Texans squad, you're looking at Austin Deculus, Zach Thomas, the newly signed Connor McDermott. So, not a lot of faith there. Not a lot of faith. But we do have some news from Texans walkthroughs and practice yesterday and today. Trent Brown back out there. Slowly and steadily, maybe the tortoise versus the hare. Seems like he's slowly working his way back. This from Sam Warren yesterday. Texans offensive tackles Cam Robinson and Trent Brown are working out with training staff on the side field at practice today. Also joined by tight end Irv Smith Jr. and CB Elijah Hussey. And we know this was kind of the track that the Texans made with Christian Harris and Dameon Pierce. Those guys working off to the side, finally then got some work with the Texans during the team drills, individual drills, and then now looks like they might maybe even play this Saturday up against the Carolina Panthers. Trent Brown, though, I wonder whether or not he's going to get a shot or a chance to make any sort of impact for this Texans team. He has the ties going back to Nick Caley with Cole Popovich with their time in New England. Will Trent Brown get a shot, though? I think, hasn't played a ton. Maybe he's the main backup option for this Texans squad in terms of tackle, or they going to continue and bump Titus Howard out if anything happens to any or either of these tackles. Let's look at another offensive position, tight end 3/fullback. And I'm kind of lumping these in because that's kind of what the Texans did. They didn't list a fullback on their unofficial depth chart. They put Jakob Johnson with the tight ends, British Brooks with the running backs. I don't know. I would say that they're fullbacks, but I'm going to lump them in for that sake here on today's video. Sam Warren, once again, with the Texans roster move, they signed a guy which maybe will shake up this tight end 3 race a little bit. The Texans signed veteran tight end Trey McKitty per the team. They put Dalton Keene on IR, which is kind of weird because they added him to the roster just, it seems like a week ago. About a week ago. Dalton Keene was added to this team, and now you add Trey McKitty, who last year was on a practice squad, didn't get any run in regular season action in the NFL, but 6'4", 246 pounds out of Georgia, could be somebody the Texans look at the end of the roster because we know the Texans, they were planning on having Brevin Jordan as part of that 3-headed monster. Obviously, the sad news around him is that he's not going to be able to play this season, but could it be Trey McKitty? Could it be one of these other guys on the Texans tight end depth chart? Because the only guys that I see that are locks, Dalton Schultz and Cade Stover. Those are the only guys that I really view as viable options on this Texans tight end depth chart right now. Luke Lachey, the 7th-round pick out of Iowa, he has a much better chance at making this Texans roster now that Brevin Jordan is injured. And if I'm looking at from this past week, obviously Irv Smith Jr. did not play up against the Vikings, was getting ramped up, was still injured at the time during the lead up to that first preseason game. He got 0 snaps. Luke Lachey got 31. Jakob Johnson got 9, all of them at the fullback spot. And British Brooks got 4 reps at the running back spot. And now it seems like in this new offense, I do wonder if they view British Brooks as even a fullback option. I think it's really just Jakob Johnson's job to lose. And I'm going to look at how will they use Jakob Johnson, because going back and watching, I really don't think out of all of his snaps, which, screen before, I believe he only had 9. I would say 7 or 8 of those was at the fullback spot. I don't think he got a lot of work at the tight end spot for this Texans squad. So look to see if they're going to use Jakob Johnson as a true fullback. Who is the tight end 3? Is it going to be Luke Lachey? Is it going to be Irv Smith Jr.? Maybe it's, the newly signed Trey McKitty. Maybe he shakes it up a little bit at Texans camp. But that's going to be another position that I'll be watching out for during this second preseason game. Now, coming up next, the only starting position battle that I'm going to be looking at on today's show. And you might be able to decipher what position group that is. Give your guesses down in the comments section. Coming up, the one starting position battle I'll be watching. But if you're heading to NRG this weekend or you plan on going to any Texans home games, let me tell you what you need to get. This tote bag, because if you haven't been to a NFL game, even a NBA, any sort of sporting event, concert, anything like that, no more bags that aren't see-through. So if you want a bag that you can 100% use at a Texans game, fellas, I'm talking to you. You don't want to be that guy that's in the ticket line and your wife turns to you and says, honey, I can't bring this bag into the game. You have to go walk it back to the car. Yeah, who wants to go on another 20-minute trek back to the car, then back to the ticket line? You're going to miss half the first quarter. Or you could use this link, chatsports.com/Texans tote, and just get that clear tote bag before the season even starts. And it's Texans, so it kind of goes with what you're doing. It could be for a guy, for a girl, whoever. Just get this tote bag if you're trying to bring anything into a Texans game. You can use it for Astros games, Rockets games. You need a clear tote if you're bringing a bag into any of these events, and I got you covered. This link, chatsports.com/Texans tote, will be in the comment section and description of today's video. Don't be that fool that needs to walk back to the car. Make sure to get yourself or your significant other a Texans tote today. One more time, this link clickable in the comment section and description of today's program. All right, the only starting position I'm going to be looking at on today's show is the linebacker spot, because we've got a little bit of a battle brewing for the Texans starting linebacker. Now, the only person that is a surefire 100% he's starting at this spot, it's Azeez Al-Shaair. Now, I put Henry To'oTo'o in as the linebacker too, but Christian Harris has been getting a ton of reps with the ones. EJ Speed as well. Jake Hansen, this team likes. Nick Neiman. But in all reality, the Texans, they run a 4-2 base defense, which means they have 4 down linemen and 2 starting linebackers in their base defense. And if we're being honest, the Texans, they have a lot of depth at the linebacker spot. Maybe behind defensive line, one of the better depth spots on this Texans roster. And I'm looking at 3 people who can start next to Azeez Al-Shaair. First up, let me talk about EJ Speed, who the Texans signed this offseason, formerly of the Indianapolis Colts. He looked fantastic up against the Vikings, played in the first couple of series, and he was sideline to sideline, showing off that, pun intended, speed. He looked really, really good. 142 tackles last season for the Colts as well. Could he vie for that starting spot next to Azeez Al-Shaair? He's looked good. Henry To'oTo'o was the starter last year while Harris was injured, and he has looked good during camp. He continues to progress and look very good. Obviously, DeMeco Ryans, he loves 2 things. He loves coaching the linebackers, and he likes those guys from Alabama. So Henry To'oTo'o has both of those in his bag with working with DeMeco Ryans. Could he possibly get some starting snaps? And I mentioned Christian Harris, who a lot of people, including me, might have forgotten about. Might have been like, oh, Christian Harris, he's not going to make a big impact. We have barely heard of him. He didn't play last year. Last year of his rookie deal. Is Christian Harris even going to make an impact? Immediately after coming back from injury, who's getting reps with the ones? Christian Harris. So is he the starting option next to Azeez Al-Shaair? I think all 3 of these guys right now have an equal opportunity to get that starting spot. And whoever's starting week 1, no guarantee that guy's starting all throughout the season. Because like I said, this Texans linebacker room is deep. So I could see each three of these guys having different opportunities throughout the season to start. And that leads me to this. What's the most important position battle for this Texans team? Is it that linebacker spot, the starting spot, or is it one of the backups? Let me know down in the comments section, what do you think is the most important position battle for the Houston Texans? And before I get into my final battle that you need to watch this weekend, I have three honorable mentions that I need to talk about before I get into the last one. Center. The center position, I think it's Jake Andrews, but Jarrett Patterson, he always has a opportunity, especially with the fact that he has had a lot of starting reps with this Texans team over the past couple seasons. Quarterback 3, Keaton Slovis, Graham Mertz. Mertz had a very rough go at it up against the Vikings. Will he have a bounce-back game and maybe have a chance to claim that quarterback 3 behind Davis Mills? And then defensive tackle. I think this DT room is very solid and very deep. You're looking at a lot of guys on this roster who, they just activated Foley Futakasi. DeMeco Ryans has yet to really practice yet. He's somebody you have to consider for this room. For the starters on the unofficial depth chart, they put Sheldon Rankins and Mario Edwards Jr., and that's not even talking about Tim Settle, who had a career year last year for this Texans team. So I'm going to be looking at these three positions as well. But the last position battle that I'm going to talk about on this video that you need to look out for this Saturday up against the Carolina Panthers is backup cornerback. We know the corner room is set. We have guys like Kamari Lassiter and Derek Stingley Jr. who are going to hold it down. Maybe the best corner. I'm not even going to say maybe. I think the best corner duo in the entire National Football League. When you look behind them, though, it's much to be desired. Much to be desired right now in the backup cornerback room. The safety room, I think, got a big bump with the signing of Jaylin Mills, so I'm okay with the safety room right now with Bullock, Gardner-Johnson, Petrie. You also have, Jaylin Mills. Jalen Reed has been progressing a ton. He looks like he'll be ready for week 1, and then you have MJ Stewart. So I'm not too worried about the safety room, but the backup corner room, it really comes down to one guy, Jaylon Smith. They're looking at him to step up and be the guy in this cornerback room. If anything happens to Lassiter, if anything happens to Stingley throughout the year, they're looking at this young man to step up and be that next option. And beyond him, the options aren't, the best in my opinion. Tremon Smith, you signed more as a, special teams guy for this team. He got 33 snaps up against the Vikings. D'Angelo Ross had a up and down day up against Minnesota. Damon Arnett, same. He had 23 snaps up against the Vikings. Myles Bryant, he's looked good during training camp, but do they view him as an outside corner? Do they view him as a slot-only guy? Where do you look at for Myles Bryant? And then Arthur Maulet, to put it frank, I don't think he did too hot up against the Vikings either. So we're looking at the cornerback, 3 spot. It's really Jaylon Smith versus those 5 guys. Can he step up and, separate himself from the pack and be that next guy up for the Texans throughout this season? We'll have to see this Saturday when our Texans have their home preseason opener, the first action inside NRG. It is to be noted, though, if you're going to the game, let me know what you think. They have a brand new video board and new sound system. Apparently, it's much better than last year. So let me know if you notice it, if you are headed to that game. But until next time, make sure you hit that subscribe button and be here Saturday when we have our live watch party for the Texans' second preseason action.